Hello and welcome to your daily dose of Satoshi's news. Today's date is Tuesday the 15th of April 2025. The year BSV comes alive. Right, just got to get into some of this. We've got Craig absolutely on fire responding to articles here. There's loads to go through with him on his profile that he's responded to, so we'll do that. We're going to talk about the state of the economy. It looks like they're sort of building up for another Great Depression, like they did in the 1930s, where they tried to, well, they did actually swap the world from the gold standard onto the Federal Reserve note standard. They're probably going to try and do the same again, you know, hand all your cash into the banks and we'll give you a CBDC in exchange for it. That's probably what's coming. Got an article here by Kurt Wattick Jr. On Bitcoin, Resurrection and the Faithful Remnant. Looks quite intriguing actually. Some 365 days of Bitcoin history. Big one today, sinking of the Titanic, the anniversary of in 1912. And also some of the Binance saying that we're going to delist Bitcoin SV. That was back in 2019, and then that'll be the end of the show. Right, let's get into it.
See Satoshi like a cowboy in the West, riding on the blockchain that they call the very best. 1 million strong, them transactions flying free. Just wait for the Terra node, you'll surely see.
Alrighty, here we go. So I found this quite amusing. When BitCrasher said, what's there to work on? Just do it on BSV. Because Jack had said, Jack Dorsey blocked to enable Bitcoin payments on merchant terminals. He said, we're working on it. So Jack and CSW is quite comically pointed, 18 months. On it, like, working on it. Working on what? Working on a store of value. They don't want it to be a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. Yeah, it's just BS. They're literally just stringing people along. You know, Craig knows it. He's onto them as well. There's so many posts that he's got that he's made here. Can't really go through them all, but there was a lot that stemmed from this. Looks like Half Pint Music. Let's just put up a video of the court case, or the Cobra court case, Jonathan Hoff and CSW. And this is a really poignant post here. CSW said here, over the years, BTC Core took technology they should never have had access to, not through innovation, but through exposure, through documents, forensic material, and files that were provided under legal compulsion during litigation. Files I was forced to hand over, files they never had to match. Among what they took were the core components of technology I had already patented, ideas now embedded in the very structure of Taproot and its cryptographic scaffolding. These were not open source gifts. They were taken from improperly accessed forensic images. No one should have seen them, and yet Core saw them and used them quietly, deliberately. So now the position is simple. They've shown their hand. The legal avenues they relied on to snoop, to subpoena, to leak are gone. They can't touch my systems. They can't access my drives. They can't copy what they can't comprehend. And what comes next? ? They won't see it. Not until it's finished. Not until it's irreversible. And by then it won't matter. Let them think they've won. Fighting talk there from CSW. Is it a bluff? Is it a double bluff? Is it a triple bluff? Is it 5D chess? Who knows? Who knows? But we know somebody who does know, and that is CSW himself, because he is Satoshi Nakamoto, the inventor and creator of Bitcoin. No one knows it like he does. Literally like the back of his hand. Beautiful. And he said, he continued here, he goes, I'm not asking for a cent. I'm not taking a cent from anyone, so cut the crap about fraud, about being misled, about how you bought something that because of me. I didn't take your money, I didn't ask for it, I didn't sell you a thing. And if you went off and bought some token or jumped on some speculation thinking my words were your personal investment advice, that's not on me, that's on you. Yeah, do your own research. I don't owe you a refund for your own bad judgment. I'm not your financial advisor, I'm not your father. You made a choice, live with it. And if you built that choice on a tweet, a quote, or something you think I implied, then you deserve exactly what you got. So don't come crying about defrauding. You weren't defrauded. You were foolish, and there's no refund policy for that. Yeah, I mean, I do get that. Obviously Craig is on the spectrum, and people do have to take responsibilities for their own decisions. He did put notices out on the market saying, about the rolling iceberg orders and all this kind of stuff. And they were legit. They were in place. I saw them. They were going to happen. But I would say, luckily, for the sake of humanity, he changed his mind at the last minute. Because I think the initial plan of just using the Tulip Trust to flip the market, would have had disastrous consequences, because Terranode would not have been built. It would have caused tremendous turmoil in the market. People would have lost billions. There would have been a lot of people in a lot of trouble, including CSW, if he'd done that single-handedly. And in order for us to be safe from the cabal, we need Terranode. We need this scaling implementation. We need Bitcoin. And Bitcoin can't really happen, or it won't really exist without Satoshi Nakamoto. The two are intertwined. So I can see both sides here. But the fact is, for anybody who wanted the market to flip, whatever, they are dollar worshipping. There is a much bigger picture at play here, a much bigger picture, and your lives depend on it. It's not about dollar worshipping anymore. Obviously Craig's going to get pissed off with these trolls coming at him, because he probably doesn't realise what they're doing. But if you're like me, just block. Much better. You don't need any negatives in your life. Just surround yourself with the people that you want to. It says you become who you hang around with. So choose who your friends. Show me your friends, or show me your friends, and I'll show you your future, is one of the expressions. So choose who you hang around with. Choose who you want to reply to. If somebody's got a negative outlook and they're not benefiting you, just block them. I wouldn't waste any time on them. But half the time, I think probably those guys are the top. They're billionaires. They probably enjoy letting off a lot of steam, telling people to do one, get lost, and all that kind of stuff. Because they still need to vent like everybody else, get their emotions out. I wonder if there was something else. I know there were loads and loads. See if we can find any more, maybe not. Let's move on to this next one then. So Steve Hank has said here, the financial markets are starting to resemble the 1930s Smoot-Hawley tariff era. We've seen this move before. If the markets don't change, we're in for a lot of trouble. More in my debate with, I think it's the University of Chicago professor, Thomas Phillipson on. So let's have a quick listen to this.
If we go back, by the way, and the market, what's going on in the market, it does relate to something I mentioned earlier. In March of 1930, it was announced that we were going to have the Smoot-Hawley tariff imposed in the United States. And it's something akin to what's going on now, because what was the environment in 1930? The money supply was contracting. That caused a slowdown in the start of the Great Depression. Then, on top of that, you had the announcement of the Smoot-Hawley tariff in March that went into effect in July. And what happened? The market crashed. And the market, from the time of the announcement in 1930 at March until June 1932, the low of the market, it lost 83%, the Dow did.
Whoa. That is massive, and he's saying that it's shaping up to look like the same, and this one is going to be absolutely massive. This is nothing compared. 2008 was just simply about robbing people of their homes. Then you had the flash crash, May 6th, 2010. That was all about, again, getting majority shareholdings in the stock market and all that. But yeah, it's building up to one massive one where literally the banks are going to do bail-ins. They're going to steal everybody's currency off them. Then they're going to offer them a CBDC in part exchange. That's what I think is going to happen. So there's not a lot we can do about it, really. literally the only solution is Bitcoin, and at least Bitcoin is here, so we have hope. There is way out. If Bitcoin wasn't here, we'd be absolutely screwed. No alternatives whatsoever, nothing to use as a common money. Literally, Bitcoin is all we've got. The commoditization of data. So that's what keeps me going, that's what keeps me hopeful. And Craig is still with us, and Terranode is still being built. And I get the feeling that there's no way it could have or would have been built as fast as it has done if he wasn't here. So bring it on. Bring it on. Right, this article here from Kirkpatrick Jr. Let's have a read of this then. Bitcoin Resurrection and the Faithful Remnant. He said, I sat in church this Palm Sunday and I listened to the sermon about the tabernacle and how each aspect of the sacrificial tent was an analogous picture of the coming of the Messiah. We heard about how Jesus was praised, then ridiculed, and how he was ultimately misunderstood by most until he became the most influential figure in history. Like many heavy things, steeper in grandeur, it made me think of Bitcoin. Context throughout the Bible, the people of Israel come within arm's reach of their divine purpose, only to stumble, distracted by idols, seduced by foreign kings, and corrupted by power. Of course, this is human nature and should be expected. Much like I predicted, such things would happen in Bitcoin. The Exodus becomes 40 years of wandering. The kingdom of David fractures. The temple is destroyed. Babylon becomes. Then Rome, and again. Israel is punished, enslaved and exiled. The last time around, Jerusalem was conquered by Rome about 35 years after the high priest Caiaphas set in motion the execution of the Messiah for failing the purity test of the temple government. Great picture, that one there. Yet woven into every failure is a promise. A remnant shall return. A righteous king will rise. Redemption will come. That expectation found its fulfillment. Christians believe during Holy Week Jesus Christ entered Jerusalem and hailed as a king. Within days he was executed, condemned by the religious authorities and crucified by the imperial powers of Rome. And then on the third day he rose again. This resurrection is the cornerstone of the Christian faith, marking not only Jesus' triumph over death, but also the restoration of communion between God and man. A covenant once broken fulfilled. It is fitting then to consider the story of Bitcoin through the lens of this redemptive arc. I often talk about the hero's journey, and this is the most influential one in world history. Indeed. Like ancient Israel, Bitcoin has had its moments of near glory. The white paper arrived in 2008 as a king of gospel, a system of honest weights and measures, a blueprint for decentralized digital cash and data integrity. In 2011 and 2013 and again in 2017, Bitcoin nearly ascended, riding waves of adoption, excitement and public attention. But every time, just before reaching maturity, it was undermined, deflated and ultimately hijacked. The 2017 culmination of the Bitcoin civil war became the crucible that fractured the community. BCH was born but compromised. Then came Bitcoin SV Satoshi Vision, an attempt to restore, not an attempt, it is the restoration of the original protocol and the sort of reformation. But like Christ before the Sanhedrin, BSV was rejected by the ruling class, dismissed by the venture capitalists, censored by exchanges, shadow banned from social media, and even delisted from financial infrastructure. The powers that be, Coinbase, Nasdaq Coin, BlackRock, Binance and others declared BTC as the canonical Bitcoin. They flooded the market with propaganda, misleading technical explanations and compliance theatre, creating a synthetic consensus around a neutered, dysfunctional Bitcoin. It no longer scales, no longer settles in real time, and no longer aspires to be cash. It's their digital golden calf. Oh, yes, indeed. Yeah, indeed. Great point there. Great point there. A telling response. This is not so different from what happened in 1st century Judea. In the wake of Jesus' crucifixion, Israel and Rome thought they had snuffed out the Messiah, but he rose again and his ministry resumed. And his empire grew such that eventually it became the official religion of Rome. Every major religious tradition from then on was forced to develop an official response to Jesus of Nazareth. Rabbinici, Judaism, Rabbinici, Judaism developed the Talmud in part to reinterpret this life and explain away his teachings. Islam reverses Jesus as a prophet but denies his divinity. Reveres Jesus as a prophet but denies his divinity. Even Eastern religions, though less central, contain references to Jesus as a wise teacher. Hindu texts depict him as a saint or a yogi, and Buddhist traditions suggest he travelled to the East in his youth. Why does Jesus, a man supposedly insignificant to many, require so much formal explanation? The same pattern holds for a BSV. Though mocking and ignored, nearly every major institution has an official policy or risk disclosure about BSV. Yeah, very true. BlackRock's ETF disclosures include language about forks and the possibility that BSV could create serious volatility. Coinbase, despite never listing BSV, dedicates compliance resources to tackling it and investor pitches that explain it in greater detail. Regulators and watchdog groups write full memos about its implications. There are even campaigns to erase or obscure its history. All this effort for a coin that doesn't matter? Good question. The magnitude of resistance is itself a tell. Indeed it is. Just as Jesus was the stone the builders rejected, so too is BSV. The protocol the crypto aristocracy cannot seem to bury. Despite the censorship, ridicule and financial penalties, it persists. And not in ideological purity alone. It scales, it settles, it offers real-world utility. And now, with the imminent release of Terranode, come on, bring it on. The infrastructure is in place to build real economies, applications and institutions on chain. The Great Commission, when Jesus was asked to summarize everything, he basically said, love God, love your neighbor as you love yourself. This is often called the golden rule in other contexts, and it should also be our Bitcoin rule. In fact, I'm often quoted passing this down to a simpler be good to each other, and that really is the sum total of our economic relationships, such as Jesus' advice, the sum total of everything else. If Jesus' resurrection was the beginning of the kingdom of God and we are then ordered to usher in the kingdom of heaven, then this era might also be Bitcoin's third day. The stone may yet be rolled away. Come on. To the remnant, build. Not our anger, not our spite, but because we are called to participate in a better world. To be the better world by example. The apostles were scattered and scared, and most of them were ultimately martyred, but not before they planted seeds that will still grow today. Commerce, contracts, creativity, all can thrive on a platform designed for integrity and scale, and those things can last forever too. Bitcoin, like the faith that inspired it, must be lived to be understood. And if it is embraced and lived by people who are able to use it to create value, it will indeed grow forever. And that is a huge opportunity. This Holy Week, let us remember resurrection is never quiet. It does not reinforce the older order. It comes to overturn. When it is overturned, we need to be ready to lead it in peace. Happy Holy Week. All right. That was quite enjoyed reading that one. You know, especially with everything that's going on today, you know, the Book of Revelation and all that, all these prophecies coming true, like the 10 Kings and, you know, Nebuchadnezzar's dream and Daniel's prophecy. Like, jeepers, it's absolutely staggering. Like, who ever knew? You know, I wouldn't say that I'm religious, but my avenues of research and rabbit holes have led me back to biblical texts, especially the Book of Enoch. Gee, you know, heavy stuff. Right, check this out. Some 365 days of Bitcoin history. On the 15th of April 1912, the White Star Line ship Titanic was swapped for its sister ship Olympic and sank in an insurance scam to rid the three main objectives to the creation of the US Central Bank proposed by J.D. Rockefeller and J.P. Morgan. Yeah, look at this. Look at that. This famous picture here. A world's record, 1/3 of a mile of iron and steel in 2 ships. The White Star Liners, Olympic and the Titanic at Belfast. The ill-fated Titanic, to the right, lost with 1,500 souls, April 15, 1912. But it's the Olympic on the right, and it's the Titanic on the left. You can tell it's the Olympic because it's got the extended bridge wings. And also, on B deck here, you've got custom-made windows. Whereas on the Titanic, they were all uniform. You know, it's just a... And you can still tell, look, they're doing works on this one. because it's being repaired. HMS Hawk went into the I think it's the stern, and the bow ploughed into the Nantucket lifeboat. And it was a complete write-off because the propeller shaft was bent, so they had to get rid of it, and so they just switched the ships. And this is when it was done, when they were next to each other. And check this out. So these are the 3 men that went down on it: Benjamin Guggenheim, Isidor Straus, and Jacob Astor. These men would have been worth 11 billion today. All 3 died that night. And check it out. These are the scans. These are the scans of the ship. Look, and you can see these 2 windows here specifically on B deck. They're not custom windows. I mean, they are custom windows. They're not uniform windows. And you can see here specifically. Look. That is a bridge wing. That's an extended bridge wing over the deck there. That is the Olympic. That is the Olympic. Look at that. There we go. Specifically those 2 windows down there. Look, that is the Olympic there. And you can see this is what they don't want you to see. Look, M. So this was picked up by a submersible that went down there, was scanning the ship, because they'll tell you that the name was painted on. Names are never painted on ships. Certainly not big ones like this. They are engraved on it so that it can't go missing. And M&P is Olympic, because the name plate that they riveted on over it has fallen away, rusted over the years. And in the same way that the Twin Tower, Twin Towers, are 3 towers that came down, were the first ever steel structured towers to ever come down or collapse due to fire. The Titanic was the first ship in living memory to sink as a result of a collision with an iceberg. Story stinks. It was a massive insurance scam. 15th of April 2014 was an article here by Textbook saying Amazon has no plans to accept Bitcoin as a form of payment. And 15th of April 29, Binance said Binance to delist BSV as it, quote here, no longer meets the exchange's standards. What a load of crap. And this was a post here from CZ when he said, Craig Wright is not Satoshi. Any more of this shit, we delist. That's what it's all about. Craig is absolutely Satoshi. And this was the article, 15th of April 2019. Binance to delist Bitcoin SV as it no longer meets the exchange's standards. Like they've got any standards whatsoever. CZ is an ex-con. He's an ex-convict. Like, seriously. Now look at that. Hilarious. Anyway, there we go. That was a quick 22-minute show. Quite enjoyed that one. There we go. So if you enjoyed these updates, please ding all donations for your appreciation to either Satoshi@Semi.com, Haggash.io, Rockwallet.me, Simply.cash, Relasia.com, or Senti.ch. We'll leave it there. Hope you enjoyed it. As ever, be aware, take care, stay safe out there, and we'll see you in the next one.
The king still has one more move.